Hello, you're listening to the Tsunami of Truth podcast. I'm Christy Allen here on jmcbroadcasting.com. William Shakespeare said, "Truth is truth to the end of reckoning," unquote. Shakespeare knew it back in the 16th century, and we're seeing it in the 2026. The truth does not have an expiration date, whether it's been buried under the mud for 250 years or hidden in a private server for 10. The reckoning is coming to collect. We're taking off now, so grab your oxygen mask as we climb to 50,000 feet today because the ground level view is just too small for the truth we're about to drop. We've got the reckoning hitting every frequency from the hidden empires under our feet to the high level corruption in DC. That is finally getting the mirror held up to its face. We start with the ghost in the machine, John McAfee. He wasn't just a guy with a taste for adventure and a paranoid streak. He was a technical prophet. Before he checked out, he made it very clear. He gave the deep state secretaries and aides free computers. Think of it as a Trojan horse with a silicone sole. McAfee admitted to donating hardware preloaded with duplicating keyloggers. To be honest, he was mad, and for him, it was most likely a personal get-back for having to give up his life and go into hiding just to feel safe. He wasn't just protecting their laptops from viruses, he was recording their every dirty secret. He showed us that there are no secrets in the digital age. The white hats aren't just guessing, they have the digital receipt for every backroom deal and late-night Zorro Ranch visit. So keep in mind, listeners, if you're a deep state operative, your own computer is currently your biggest witness for the prosecution. Now let's talk about the hardware of our history that they tried to delete. There's a paradigm shift exploding in plain sight, and it's called Tartaria. We were told 1776 was the birth of freedom. But what if it was actually the great reset of a Titan civilization? Tartaria wasn't a myth. It was a global empire of free energy, sacred geometry, and ancestral virtue that spanned from Tibet to Alaska. Joe A. Brooks shared, "The world has changed forever. Russian President Vladimir Putin has declassified the explosive files of Tartaria, revealing a colossal empire systemically erased from collective memory. Western historians have remained silent, and that's why Tartaria was not a myth. It was the largest empire on the planet. Their inhabitants were not wild. They were spiritually advanced, morally sane, and technologically ahead of their time. They lived in ancestral virtue, honor, and power. Blue-eyed, red-haired warriors valued family, justice, and sacred blood. These were not primitive tribes. They were Slavic Aryan Titans. And today, this memory is being restored. The first edition of the British Encyclopedia in 1771 describes Tartaria as a dominant force in North Asia. But after the 18th century, it disappeared, not by accident, but on purpose. Later editions made the Tartaria table. This is the largest historical coverage in human history. So why did they remove it? Because Tartaria opposed the Vatican control systems, the Romanovs, world banking dynasties, and the cabal that would later shape the West. You see, Tartaria was free. It was self-sufficient, non-centralized, and rooted in ancestral energy. This is what the deep state fears the very most. Putin's initiative to revive Tartaria is more than a historical correction. This is an attack on the globalist stage. Russia is rewriting its entire history syllabus, removing Western distortions, and restoring its true heritage. This is a paradigm shift, a cultural atomic bomb that is exploding in plain sight. The publication of the Tartaria documents is not just for scholars. It's a call to spiritual warfare. The timeline of the world flies by. The illusion is falling to pieces, and with it the old guard's grip on our past. Tartaria is not dead. She's just been put down. But today, she wakes up. The Forbidden Empire returns the truth, has awakened, and the storm is not here coming, it's here. Not only did they abolish Tartaria, 1776 was the year everything changed. We were told that 1776 was the birth of freedom, but it was actually the death of a civilization. It was the year the world was taken, the rise of the hidden hand. So what was going on in 1776? The Illuminati was founded in Bavaria. The Rothschild banking empire began its global expansion. The American Revolution erupted. Tartaria had begun to disappear from the maps, all in the same year. Coincidence? Tartaria was not a myth. It was a great ancient civilization with advanced free energy technology, great architecture using sacred geometry, a harmonious way to live with the natural law. They had knowledge of the ether, but everything has been erased from history books. Tartaria was buried literally with mud floods, natural disasters, and a new story. Then came the World's Fairs showing huge temporary buildings they claimed to have been built in 2 years. This was a lie. Once they buried the old world, they created the new one with central banks, slavery by debt, maritime law, artificial scarcity, indoctrination through education, all funded by the same families. The Rothschilds didn't just fund those empires, they funded restarts and eliminated everything that didn't serve their system of control. Tartaria was way too free, way too advanced, way too powerful. So they reversed everything. Free energy became a fossil fuel. The truth has become a conspiracy. The mind became religion. Nature has become a resource. Freedom has become an illusion. 1776 wasn't the beginning, it was just the cover. We are the generation rediscovering what they tried to delete. Tartaria was real. The ether is real, and the truth is no longer hidden. Unquote. Thanks, James Brooks. That was awesome. So why did they erase it? Well, Tartaria was too free. It didn't need central banks or debt slavery. So they literally buried it with mud floods and natural disasters and a rewritten history that turned free energy into fossil fuels and the ether into a conspiracy theory. 1776 was an incredible year. That was when they founded the Illuminati, and they had the Rothschild expansion, and the birth of the U.S. all happened while the maps were being scrubbed. 1776 was not the beginning, it was the cover-up. Today, that memory is waking up, and the hidden hand is losing its grip on our past. So speaking of cages, let's look at the central bank. Kevin Warsh, the man who wants to worship the Fed, is calling for a regime change at the U.S. Central Bank. Warsh is calling for a new monetary toolkit. He wants to narrow the Fed's mandate and kill the reliance on unconventional tools like printing money into oblivion. I like him already. Trump just reminded everyone, Obama sent $1.7 billion in untraceable cash pallets to Iran with zero investigation from Congress or the FBI. The Fed regime change is the answer to that theft. We're moving from a system of artificial scarcity back to a system of gold-backed reality. And speaking of that $1.7 billion, 60 Minutes just gave us the terrifying results of those pallets. International inspectors just verified that Iran has 970 pounds of 60% enriched uranium. If they take it up just a notch, that's 10 to 11 nuclear bombs. So Trump was right. Again, he called out the weak deal that enriched a regime that is now sitting on enough HEU to hang the fate of the world on a thread. The software of Obama's diplomacy has led us to the hardware of potential nuclear war. This isn't just bad policy. It's a reckoning of the consequences of treason. Now let's get into the radioactive stuff. We're talking about the DOJ files that make Watergate look like a stolen lunch money incident. Declassified records are screaming that President Obama didn't just know about the Clinton email investigation. He was the one holding the shovel. Obama allegedly ordered Comey to bury the probe because his own emails were sitting on that unsecured server like a digital ticking time bomb, not just Hillary Clinton's. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. This was a full spectrum digital crime scene cleanup. Loretta Lynch was the enforcer, Comey was the obedient fixer, and Hillary was the lucky beneficiary of a presidential firewall. If the cat is out of the bag, the cat is currently shredding the deep state's curtains. Now for the story everyone is whispering about. The hammer of justice is reportedly swinging toward the Southern District of Florida. Reports are flying that federal authorities quietly executed a search warrant at the home of Barack Obama. Why? The massive grand jury Russiagate investigation. So whether the handcuffs click tonight or next week, the signal is clear. The immunity shield is cracking. People keep asking me, Christy, why hasn't Obama been arrested yet? Well, the subpoenas are out, the records are declassified, and the search warrant is the ultimate knock-knock joke that the deep state isn't laughing at. Look, before we talk about orange jumpsuits, we have to talk about the 2024 Supreme Court ruling. They gave presidents a shield of immunity for official acts that is thicker than a bank vault. So arresting a former king is hard when the law was written by the king's friends. But don't lose heart. We're seeing the nets being cast. I mean, look at the Brennan subpoenas. Look at the 3,000 trafficking arrests last week. High-level arrest is the dessert, but you have to eat your vegetables first. And that's the D-class and the lower-level flippers first. You don't take the king until you've cleared the board of the knights like John Brennan. Finally, a bit of hope. The Colorado Appeals Court just threw out Tina Peters' 9-year sentence. And that makes me so happy to say that. They told the judge he couldn't punish her for her beliefs. You can't jail a person for persisting in espousing what they think is true, in other words. The court basically told the judge, hey, buddy, this is America. You can jail her for the keys, but you can't jail her for her creed. Tina might still be in the legal woods, but the First Amendment just became her brightest flashlight. Tina's freedom is a signal that the First Amendment still has teeth. It's a massive win for the intelligent who are tired of being quiet just to keep from offending the stupid. Tina might still be in the legal woods, but hey, she's got a First Amendment that works. Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And we're hearing the rhyme today, folks. From the fall of Tartaria in 1776 to the fall of the central bank regime today, the pattern is clear. They tried to delete our past to control our future. But the hardware of history is finally overriding the software of their lies. So keep your feet grounded in the sovereign soil because the past is beginning to appear back into the history books. And that means the future just got a little more real. The storm isn't coming because the reckoning looks like it's already here. Hey, thanks for listening to the Tsunami of Truth podcast. I'm Christy Allen here on johnmichaelchambers.com.
The Federal Reserve is no more a government agency than Federal Express. The Federal Reserve is a corporation founded and run by international bankers.
The Global Financial Reset is not just another podcast or episode of pertinent current discussions concerning economic-related issues. It's also an ongoing educational workshop series.
Join me and my prominent guests every Wednesday live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on JMC Broadcasting's backup Rumble channel on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Sign up for JMC's free weekly war report, including notifications of when the Global Financial Reset show is published. The future is bright, and it belongs to us, not to the global elite.
You can survive and thrive this reset transition, but it takes action on your behalf. The Global Financial Reset Workshop Series gives you the tools to get out of the system with confidence.